Here we go. We are live. I'm just going to share my screen here. Do you see that, Amanda? Thumbs up if you see. Cool. Hello, everyone. I can see people hopping in here. Hello and welcome. Welcome to our webinar today. We're going to learn all about setting realistic goals with the incredible Amanda McKinney. I'm so excited that Amanda is here today. Amanda is also now an author, so we're really lucky to get some time in Amanda's schedule while she's promoting her new book. So as you're jumping in here, grab a drink, grab a notepad, get cozy. We're going to learn a lot from Amanda today. And as you're settling in, let us know in the chat, who are you? Where you're tuning in from. It's always really cool to see where everybody is. And now I just need to open my chat window. I've realized I can't see the chat window. Can you see the chat window there, Amanda? Let me know who everybody is if you see anyone popping in there.
No one has added anything yet, but I can see it. I can open the chat.
Cool.
Oh, Sheila is from Michigan. Hello, Sheila.
Now I see it.
Oh, they're popping in now.
Yeah. And Christina from Nelson, BC. Oh, I was in Nelson last year. That's so nice over there, Christina. And Kim from Kentucky. Hi. Celine from Fort Collins. Shelby from New York. Hi, Shelby. Well, my name's Sinead. In case you haven't been on one of our webinars before, I'm in Calgary, Alberta. My pronouns are she, her. And I am, as well as part of the Offering Tree team, I am also an Offering Tree user, so I get to see both sides of the coin. Hi, Sylvia from Maryland, Cindy in Alabama, and Rebecca also from Michigan. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So you can also let us know in the chat, what's the biggest challenge in your business right now, if you want to share that. I was thinking about this earlier, and I think I have a few challenges in my business. I've got 3 kids as well, which are a challenge in my yoga business. But in terms of goal setting, and I'm really excited to learn from Amanda on this, my biggest challenge is staying with it. I can do the goal setting, but it's the actual end game of being like, oh yeah, I set that goal a while ago, and then I just forget about it. Hi, Dan from Denver. So yeah, I'm really excited to learn from Amanda today. So a little bit of housekeeping from me. Felicia from Cleveland, hello. A little bit of housekeeping is we're going to do a Q&A towards the end, but throughout the call, drop your questions in the chat. We'll make sure that we get to those questions. We're going to have a discount link for Offering Tree as we go through, and a couple of other goodies in the chat. And if you're here for the replay, we're going to have all of that, I think, in the comments box below. It will be there for the replay. So yeah, Felicia from Cleveland, Rebecca saying so much to do and sometimes a lack of direction, what to do first, now or next. Oh my gosh, I hear you on that, Rebecca. I am very guided by in the moment and kind of race off and do whatever the priority is and then don't really come back to it. That's one of my challenges too. So to finish up before we hand over to Amanda, who is Offering Tree. If you're new to us, we are a software system, an all-in-one software built by wellness providers for wellness providers. So it's all ends of the spectrum, from massage therapists and psychotherapists to yoga teachers, studios, gyms, fitness, and it's everything all in one space. So it's your scheduling, booking, payments, email marketing, blogs, on-demand library, store, just about everything you could think of to run your business. We have built it into our software, and we are guided by the users we serve. So when you're in the Offering Tree community, if you see a feature that you need, we add it to the roadmap, we build it in, we adjust it, we tweak it, we do what we can to make it exactly what you need. So now, enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Amanda. I'm going to stop my share and take it away, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Sinead. Oh my gosh. I am looking at the chat right now. Hello to everyone, and thank you for sharing what you're struggling with goals. I'm going to rope this in as we talk today because you are not alone. That is for sure. So I'm going to close the chat though, because I was just telling Sinead, I get very distracted with the chat. So Sinead is going to help me. She's going to be gathering all questions, but I promise you I will check the chat later. So let me hit a few buttons here so that I can share my screen. And all right. So we're going to go with this one. Sinead, can you see my screen? Fantastic. It's always good to test that. You just never know. So, today we're talking about setting 90-day goals and very specifically realistic 90-day goals. So, we're going to take into account what those roadblocks are that you just mentioned in the chat. And I want to set the stage that this is probably you. Let's hope you're this excited. Like this, when I saw this little picture thing, I was like, this is the one I have to use. You're so excited, hopefully, because you have started this business. You have seen some progress. But if you're anything like myself and any of my clients and any of my audience, we have roadblocks. And we often use the idea and the phrase of like squirrel, right? We get really distracted. Several of you even said that in the chat. You get distracted with things. Now, this distraction is not always a bad thing. Your kids aren't a bad thing, but they can distract you from what you're trying to do in your business. This can also look like maybe a new social media platform pops up. Hashtag threads, right? I don't know about you, but I woke up one day, didn't know anything about threads. And by the end of the day, that's all anyone was talking about. And so this kind of thing happens in our society today because of so much of the technology. It's not a bad thing that we have new technology, but it can be very, very distracting. Or maybe you watched a webinar or listened to a podcast, and all of a sudden you're like, I have to do this thing. Even though I told you I was, or told myself I was going to do this thing, I just heard about this new thing that I need to do. Or maybe you talk to your BFF Google and find something, but then get very, very overwhelmed with the mass amount of information that you can get online. You are not alone. This is what everyone tells me, and it's what I thought too. So when I first started my business back in 2017, I had so many ideas. These are just a handful of them, right? I wanted to start my business. I thought about maybe starting a podcast, maybe writing a book, coaching programs, courses, templates, all of these things were in my mind, but they were very, very scattered. And the one thing I realized is that we can have it all eventually. I am not here today to tell you that you have to pick one thing and let everything else go. But what we cannot do is we cannot pursue it all at the same time. This is why 90-day goals are so important and so critical, and how I've built my business and been able to do the things that I really wanted to do. So, some of those things, if you and I haven't met, I want to tell you about those things. Sinead just said that I'm a newly published author, which is very exciting. Oh my gosh, my book, if you're watching this live, and we're in July of 2023, it is just now published. So I've been working on it for the last year and it is published. I'm super excited to say that. It has been such a labor of love. But I also have a podcast, The Unapologetic Entrepreneur, and I'm a coach for accidental entrepreneurs as well. So if we go back to that idea of I had all these ideas and they felt very, very scattered, what I was looking for and what you're looking for is clarity, and taking it from this scattered feeling to a plan. Someone even said it in the chat right before I started, that what to do first, next, and last. And what a beautiful thing that was, because that's what we have to do. And it's so hard when we want to do it all. So I was able to then start the business, start making money. That was in 2017. And of course, started the coaching programs that I did and many different offerings along the way. But the podcast didn't start until 2019. And the book wasn't written until 2022 and 2023. So as you can see, you can do things, you can have these big projects, but they take time. So one of the things in my book is I outlined a framework called your YOU promise. This is comprised of a lot of different things. And of course, we don't have time to talk about them all today, but I wanted to show you this to show you that setting realistic goals is very much part of what I have included in this book. And as you can imagine, when you're writing a book, you cut a lot of things and you only keep the important things that are super valuable. And setting realistic goals is huge in creating the business that integrates into your life instead of taking over it. So we're going to dive in, get ready, because we're talking about goals. And I love this topic. So most of us, if you're anything like me and anyone else that I've worked with, is we set a goal And then we look at the calendar and start putting things on the calendar. So maybe you're setting the goal of updating your amazing offering tree website, because we all want to refresh that website every now and then, right? Like we want it to feel new and fresh. So maybe that's what you want to do. And so you look at the calendar and you're like, I'm going to do it on these days. This is how we traditionally look at goals. But what we need to do is we need to flip the script. This is the difference between setting a goal, period, and setting a realistic goal. We flip it. We need to look at the calendar first to see what time we actually have, and then set the goal. This was an aha moment for me, huge aha moment. And I hope it is for you right now, in understanding that we have to understand realistically the time that we have. So I'm going to go through the steps of this. And if you're watching this live, we're not going to pause and take the time to do this because it does take time for you to look at your calendar. But come back to this recording and then actually pause and do it. I would really encourage you to do this because it takes time to look at your own calendar. I can't do that for you. So, step number one is to reflect on the previous 90 days. What this allows you to do is to see, okay, I was able to do what in the last 90 days? It allows you to see by going back. I mean, you know this the saying, hindsight's 2020. So we can really identify what we were able to do by looking back at the previous 90 days. So doing that and simply making a list of the things that you were able to accomplish. This is also very important as we look at the previous 90 days, as well as step number two to look ahead is to understand the seasonality, both in the year and in your life. So as we are recording this right now and doing this live, it is July of 2023. That is the middle of the summer. Chances are your summer schedule looks different than your spring schedule. And then we throw holidays into the mix and all things change. So you have to take into account the actual season that we're in the calendar year, as well as your life. So seasonality can go in two different directions. And so this is why it's so important to really understand how much time you actually have. So in step number two, what you want to do is actually get an accurate account of how many days that you have to actually work on your business. Because I know we think about our business every day. I'm an entrepreneur. I think about my business every single day. As much as I wish I could turn it off sometimes, I can't. And that's the reality of it. So we're thinking about it constantly, but we're not actually working. So we don't have 90 days. First and foremost, I really hope you're taking 2 days off a week, whether it's the weekend or Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is for you. I hope you are able to do that. So you want to take out weekends, whatever those are for you, vacation time, doctor's appointments, kid stuff, your stuff, whatever is going on in the next 90 days, make it clear to yourself how much time you actually have on your calendar. So, for instance, maybe in the next 90 days, you have 50 work days. And can you see the difference? Our brains, when we think, I can take on the world in 90 days. I don't know about you, but I do that all the time. I think I can do so much in 90 days. But when I really look at my calendar, I cannot actually do that. I actually don't have 90 days. So understanding how many days you have is really, really important. Then I want you to identify how many working hours you typically have in a work week. Now, I know this changes definitely with different seasons and certainly when things throw things off, but look at a typical week. So let's say, for example, you work 20 hours a week on your business that we're looking at right now, right? Maybe you have multiple businesses, then you have to split it up, whatever it is for you. Look at how many hours per week that you actually work and then multiply that by 4 to get how many in a month, and then multiply it by 3 for the 90 days. So here's the kicker. So you got 20 hours a week, right? Which breaks down to 80 per month and 240 hours in 90 days. And you're like, that's a lot of hours, Amanda. That's amazing. I can do a lot in a lot in 240 hours. But remember, you don't have 90 days. You have 50 or whatever yours is. So you have to look at the math again and say, okay, in 50 days, that's only 7.5 weeks, right? We're not looking at 12 weeks, we're looking at 7.5. And when you look at 7.5 times 20, it's 150 hours. The reason I'm using math so much here is because we can conceptualize this more than when we look at like a chunk of time of like 90 days. I can do a lot, but we really don't have that time. We have to be realistic with how much time we actually have. And so once you have identified this, and this is why I said we're not going to take the time for you to go look at your calendar because that's going to take individual time. But I want you to figure out this number. Please don't just hear me and not do this. I really want you to do it. And so step 4 is identifying your goal. This is when you say, okay, in the next 90 days, what am I going to tackle? Setting that goal. And so you can ask yourself, what can I realistically accomplish in the next whatever works for you? Now, if 150 hours works for your brain the best, use that. If 50 days or 7.5 weeks, whatever works best for you, but make sure you have that accurate account of the math for yourself. So, Sinead, I want to open it up and see if anyone has any questions about goals very specifically before we move on, including yourself. So let me stop the share for a second and see if there's any questions that I can answer, because I know I just kind of whipped through that pretty quickly.
I'm just checking in the chat. I don't see any questions in there yet.
Okay.
But what just really stood out to me from that was taking 2 days off, because as an entrepreneur, and I don't know if everybody else feels this, when you're working for yourself, I always end up blending into the week, and I'm like, well, I didn't get that finished today. I'll just do it on Saturday morning. And then Saturday morning drags into the afternoon or Sunday, and then I get frustrated because I didn't set aside the time for the family. So have you got any tips around how to make sure?
Yeah. Well, first, I think we need to understand ourselves and our season of life. So, because what I hear in this is you're doing the thing in your business and then you feel guilty for taking the weekend. I have fallen into this many times, and there have been many, many times where I'm like, I've got this idea. I just need to go write it down. But if I go in my office, it's going to look like I'm not paying attention to the family and I'm feeling really guilty. My husband, Michael, once told me, and he's told me several times, he's like, Amanda, you love what you do. So if you can go into your office and capture that idea in 15 or 20 minutes, and that's going to help you in the long run, go do that. If it becomes a habit to work every Saturday, then you might want to explore that. But if it's something that you just need to do, like I would encourage everyone to remove the guilt from that. And the reason I say that is because I really aim and encourage everyone to aim for work-life integration instead of balance. I don't know where someone thought it would be 50-50 with like life and work. It's complete crap, in my opinion. So let's figure out how we can build a business that, okay, maybe you do work a few hours on the weekend because you can get dedicated time. But let's try and integrate it in a different way with maybe on Tuesday afternoon, you take an afternoon off, right? You go do something with your kids. That's very, whatever that is, or with your spouse or with your partner or with yourself. We can do that too. Now, I do think it's a great idea to try and take 2 days off in a row every week, but I know that's not realistic for all of us. And if it helps, if it feels integrated and good for you overall, let's let go of the guilt from that.
I love that. That's such a good reminder. The balance, it's an anomaly. It doesn't work. There isn't a balance. It is that blend in. So there's a few questions in the chat.
Oh, great.
Cindy's saying the same. I feel like I work 7 days a week. If it's not for the business, it's house chores. Yep.
Yeah.
I hear you on that.
It definitely feels like that for a lot of us, Cindy. You are not alone.
And the Tina Club says how many hours you can work and how you are at your best to work.
Mm.
How how many hours you can work and how you are at your best to work be differentiated? Like,
Absolutely. I say put on there the optimal situation. So, and that really comes into play with your personality, with your characteristics, and how you work best. Like, I am someone, I never try and sugarcoat this because people ask me all the time, how in the world do you get X, Y, and Z done? I can focus on something for a long period of time. Like, I am actually not saying I'm perfect at this, and there is definitely a downside to it. So for me, I have to know that I could work a lot and feel great about it. Let's be clear. I could feel super excited about doing all that. But like you said in the chat, the optimal amount of time for me to work is less than that. So I had to figure that out. So for me, I know the morning hours are the best hours for me. I'm a morning person. And so that's when the most critical work happens. And therefore, there's other types of tasks I put off into the afternoon. This isn't giving you hours of work, but it is telling me, like, I know if, like, let's say I decided to cut my work day in half and I stop at noon or one, right? Like, I've got the critical things done and I could really cut my work time in half if I needed to do that, which I have many times for different reasons. So you
mhm,
definitely can look at your optimal schedule as well.
I love that. And then, okay, Diane, I'm sorry if I'm going to mispronounce this. I thought it was Dylan, but I think it's Diane. Or yeah,
Mm.
Diane. Correct me if I'm mispronouncing it. I'm sorry, people mispronounce my name all the time. Diane says, I've been trying to organize using Outlook 365 for businesses for business for a long time and it isn't working. Should I change programs? Which is the best to organize for planning, setting goals, charging, expensing? I'm not sure if you can cover that, Amanda. We might be able to come back to that.
Yeah, I can answer it. I can answer it because the answer is whichever one works best for you. That's the answer. Like you're saying, I've tried to use Outlook 365. It's not working. Try something else. Find the thing that works for you. And then once you find it, my dear friend, don't look at anything else. It does not matter what Sinead is doing. It does not matter what Amanda's doing. The system doesn't matter. It's will you actually use it? Is it helping you? Now, everything takes a little time to learn. So we need to like give a new technology time to learn it. But if you've been trying it for a long time and it's not working, time to try something else. There's free trials of almost everything. Give it a go.
Yeah. I use Trello now, and
Mhm.
that works for me. I think sometimes it's just what matches your brain mapping or something.
Right.
Trello, different cards. I
Yeah.
use it for all of my business needs, and it works.
Yeah, there's
Um,
tons of options that a lot of people use Asana, but again, we could list off the options of Trello, Asana, Basecamp, Monday, Task and Google Calendar. Like you could use anything. You just have to figure out what works for you and completely ignore what works for other people. That's why
yeah,
there's so many people, so many different technologies, because someone was like, this doesn't work for my brain. I have to come up with a new one. So, my friend, you might invent a new piece of technology one day if you, if you create something. So that is why there's so many out there is because our brains just work differently.
so true. And we have one more question. This one's from
Sure.
Jessica. I love doing strategy like Amanda is sharing. However, I get stuck here and can't get out to actually do the work that I have planned. What suggestions do you have to just start on the goals? That's a fantastic question,
Yes.
Jessica.
Well, it leads right into the next thing. So I'll share my screen. Jessica, that's a great question. And it's so interesting. Like, I'll, before I start sharing my screen again, this is so incredible because you are not alone. And I have consistently heard this. So, interestingly enough, things change in our life, in our business, and my business has evolved. If people have been around for a while, you might remember that my podcast did not have the unapologetic entrepreneur name a while back. It used to be Marketing Yoga with Confidence. And so things evolve in our business. So, that just as a permission to change over time, and the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because so many people are struggling with accountability. This is come up time and time again. And I could teach goals. I could teach this lesson every single day, and everyone would know it and believe it. and get it, and you would still need help with accountability because it is hard. It is hard to hold yourself accountable. It is very, very difficult. And the example that I give all the time is like, we can set a goal where we're like, I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to eat less sugar. I'm going to learn a new language. How many of those have we given up on? Right? Because we didn't have anything built in for accountability. Why would we think it's any different for business? It's not. You're not alone. Setting a goal, especially as an accidental solo entrepreneur, that you are sitting behind this desk, working your tail off, doing so many things. Of course, it's hard to hold yourself accountable. You're wearing a lot of hats, you're doing a lot of things. And it's really hard. So, all of that to say, you're not alone. Accountability is huge. And we're about to tap into a few things that will help you with that. So, let me go back and share my screen again. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yes. Yes. Awesome. Okay. So, the reminder, interesting, Jessica, that you brought that up, is remember we set that goal, we get super excited, but we always, 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 always will run into a roadblock where we have a lack of focus, which creates a lack of progress, which creates the feeling of guilty. Like I feel guilty because I'm not doing the thing. And it's this cycle that we get into. One of the tools that is super, super helpful, this is very tactical that you can do on your own, but I'll talk about accountability and how you can get support from other people. But this is something that you can do today. You can do this today. You set your goal and you can set this up. It is tracking your progress. You're like, duh, Amanda, that sounds too simple. It really is simple and it sounds silly, but if you don't track your progress, you won't remember your progress and you won't do anything. Like, this is what holds us back. It is so easy to just set the goal and forget it. It's kind of like setting a New Year's resolution or intention. Like, I always set a word for the year. And admittedly, there have been a few years in my life where I didn't remember the word, right? I set this goal or set the word of the intention, and I got to the end of the year and thought, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the word. But had I been tracking the progress, had I written that word every day for a year, I would have remembered it. This is what we're going to do with your progress on your 90-day goal. So as soon as you set your 90-day goal, I want you to open a Google Doc or whatever system you use. It could be a note on your phone, it could be anything. And you set up what I call your progress log. Set up your progress log and put your 90-day goal right at the top. Then each week, you're going to track your progress. And this is what I want you to get in the habit of doing. It is a new habit, but you can do this. I believe in you. You've got this. And it will help you as you get in this habit of tracking your progress. It will help you stay focused. The next question I always get is, Amanda, what the heck do I put in this progress log? I got you covered. Here are your questions. Ask yourself, what did I accomplish this week? What did I learn this week? That's a really big one because sometimes we don't accomplish very much, but we learn something. So that's something to really take note of. What roadblocks did I navigate this week? This is insanely critical to document because you will absolutely forget. And the reason I know this is because I coach so many people. Over the years of running my business, I've coached so many entrepreneurs, hundreds of entrepreneurs. And every time I've started a Google Doc and I keep track of what they do. I keep track of the things that they accomplished, what they're going to do the next time. And when they message me halfway through the week or whenever and say, Amanda, I'm sick, I need to reschedule our call. Well, you better believe I put that as a note. Because if you are sick, my dear friend, don't you think it's going to impact your progress? It will, but I guarantee you, you won't remember you were sick. So a coach is someone who does that for you. But if you don't have a coach, you need to do this for yourself. And we have to learn to track our progress. Now, the bonus questions that I love, and I have learned so much from asking myself these questions, is what in my business has brought me joy and what in my business has brought me stress? These are two extra ones, but you learn a lot from them. So if you can ask yourself these questions and fill it out in bullet points or not even complete sentences. Like, this is just for you. It's for you to learn. And that's what you want to do, because if you're tracking your progress, you'll understand what you're learning along the way. You'll understand the progress you're making, and you'll actually do the work. So, all of you have said, I get distracted, I do other things. Like, if you're coming back to this Google Doc that says your 90-day goal right at the top, you have to stay focused, or you have to call yourself out and be like, well, I did not stay focused this week. And you call attention to it because you can learn from that. The more honest you are with yourself, the more accurate your 90-day goals will be, because these are really, really hard to set. They're not easy because our brains just, they are, it's difficult to figure out how much can I do in this amount of time. So it takes some time, but the more you do this, the more accurate it will be. So, what I want you to do is track your progress each week and simply put it in that Google Doc or a spreadsheet or whatever works for you. Just put it in there. And then each quarter, so every 3 months, I want you to read every single word in that progress log. I want you to reflect. Remember when I said in step 1 to reflect on what you did the last 90 days? It's reading this progress log next time. That's what you want to do. So instead of me saying, because I bet when I asked that question, what did you do in the last 90 days? You were like, oh, I have no idea. But if you have a progress log, you have every idea. You have it all listed because you did the work. So that is the key component of this, is you really want to start tracking your progress. So that's a really big component that you can do all on your own. It's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. This is a new habit to create, but it is something that you can do. So the reality here is you're probably not going to hit your goals all the time. If you do, please contact me, as you know something that no one else in the world has ever figured out. And I would like to be the first person to interview you on a podcast, because no one has ever hit every goal they've ever strived for. We have to remember that this process takes time. Figuring out what we can do in a certain amount of time is incredibly difficult. So just know it takes time, but every bit of progress is awesome. When you can learn from it, that's how you become successful, is when you're learning and when you can ask yourself, okay, I did this and then this happened. What happened here? Whether it's good or bad. If you can see this helped me make progress. Like I told you, I'm a morning person. How do you think I figured that out? I mean, sure, I can feel good in the morning, but how I know I'm productive in the morning is by tracking. I didn't just know this. When I became an entrepreneur, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, but I tracked everything. And so I learned. You'll learn it too, but you have to start tracking it and then really understanding the roadblocks. So if you realize, I'll just call myself out because we all have our things. My email inbox can derail my entire day. So if I constantly have my email inbox open or have the notifications on my phone for email, I will not be productive, because the reality is our email inbox is a to-do list from someone else. See, I've already put my to-do list together and it's in my project management system. So that's the first thing I need to check. And before I can check my email, I need to know what my day looks like. And so I identified that by identifying the roadblocks. When I would say, I spent 3 hours today checking my email. That's a ridiculous amount of time, or whatever. So we have to do that. It's not going to be email inbox for you. It'll be something else. But whatever it is for you, you have to identify it and understand, like, we all have our things that will derail us. So make sure to give yourself grace. But my friend, don't let yourself off the hook, because there's two camps that people, like, we fall into one or the other. And some of us, I'll raise my hand, will never feel like we did enough. I will never think I did enough. I will never think it's good enough, smart enough, whatever. The enoughness will always be there. And so I have to have support to remind me to give myself grace for what I navigated. Now, there's other people that I've worked with. I've worked with both. There's pros and cons to both. The other side is it's okay. This is just a hobby. I'm just going to try and make a little money with this. So it's okay if I don't do the things I said I was going to do. And for that, we need the support that's going to say, okay, you told me that you wanted to do this thing, and now you're not doing it. So what's going on here? Both of us, both camps need support. What kind of accountability do you need? That's the thing, my friend. Accountability is huge. It could be an accountability buddy. Everyone here, either using Offering Tree, thinking about Offering Tree or something. So find a buddy in here, in this community. Find someone who's doing something that you're trying to do. Offering Tree has so many programs that they run, like challenges and all these things of like, update your website, get your lead magnet together, like join that community and find a buddy. That's what you could do if you need a buddy. If you need a coach, find a coach. Find the one that resonates with you. I am one. So if I resonate with you, come on over. I'd love to work with you. If it's someone else, go talk to them. Go talk to them. Some of us, I'll also raise my hand, need to pay for that accountability. I am one of those that I really usually need to financially be invested in order to take the action when I really need support. It holds me accountable. And I know that about myself. We also can put boundaries in place for our time. So this is something that I have taught many, many times. It's a story inside the book that I had a client I was working with. Her name's Kim. And she said, she sent me a message. It was a voice message. And she said, Amanda, please tell me that there is a better way to do this. I just spent 3 hours recording a 3-minute video. I wish she could have seen my face when I heard that. I was like, there is absolutely a better way. And it is to set a timer. The next time you need to record a video, I want you to set a timer for 10 minutes. Give yourself 10 minutes to record the dang video and get it out, because in no way, shape, or form do you need to be spending 3 hours on a 3-minute video. The next day, she said, Amanda, you were right. It worked. Oh my gosh. Sometimes we have to put boundaries in place for our time to hold ourselves accountable to taking the action. Because sometimes it just takes 10 minutes to get the thing done, but we will think about it for 3 days. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. There's no shame here. We just have to call ourselves out and understand what is the roadblock, what is stopping me, and what accountability, what boundaries do I need to put in place so that I can actually do this. And then the other thing to remember, this is really you, and it's helpful to talk this out sometimes, but sometimes it's easy to set a goal because you feel like you should set that goal. But if you don't really want it, you're not going to do it. So ask yourself, do I really want what I've written as my 90-day goal? Or do I feel like I should have it? And if you feel like you should, and there are some things we should have, let me be clear, right? Like there are some things in our business we should have. But if it's like, I'm going to learn how to use Instagram, is that if you don't really want to do that, that's not something you have to do. So ask yourself, do I really want this? And if you don't really want it, change the goal. Change the goal, because you only are going to take action on things you really want to do. You've seen this in your life so many times. I can guarantee you when you were like, I want to go on this trip. Well, you figured out how to save the money. You figured out how to go on that trip, and you figured out how to have a great time. When you don't really want to do something, you don't end up doing it, right? Now, there's sometimes that the season of life we're in changes that. So there's also the very important note to understand that you may really, really, really want something in your business, but at this moment and season in your life, you cannot get it because the kids need your attention right now. That's not going to be the case forever. They're not going to be this age forever. You're going to have a different season. There's going to be a time when you can invest more time in your business, more energy in your business. That's just one example, but you see the point is sometimes seasonality of our life can stop us from getting what we want, but we can probably make little progress and we need to celebrate that little progress. So we want to find that support because when we set a goal, we're super excited. Then we will have a lack of focus because, hello, squirrel. Like we've all had those moments where something else gets our attention, but that support system and tracking your progress is going to bring you back to center. It's going to bring you back to making that progress. So finding that support is really key. And of course, I would be a very terrible coach if I didn't say how I could support you. So I have my book. You can find it wherever books are sold. And very cool, you can request it from your local library. Isn't that fun? So you'll have to request it. I seriously doubt they'll have it. If they do, please tell me. I'd be so excited. But you'll probably have to request it. And then I have coaching options on my website. Those change. So I don't have anything specifically written here. But right now, at the time of this recording, I do have some options for accountability focused coaching because I know how critical it is. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check it out there or, of course, reach out over email. I would love to hear from you. But more importantly than anything, before we open it up to more questions, please know that there is someone in this world, and that someone is me, who believes in you 100%. Whatever your goal is, I don't care what it is. If you want to update your website or you want to learn how to bake sourdough bread, I believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. You've got this. That goal that's on your heart right now would not be there if you couldn't do it. You can do this. So track your progress, find an accountability buddy, find the support you need, and you will be successful. All right. So questions. We've got so much time because I know this is a big one.
I loved this, Amanda. And earlier, Sarah had said, this is so good. And I totally agree. And Tina had said so true about the accountability and how what I found and what suddenly sprung to my mind is that as an entrepreneur, when things go sideways or are not focused, I start thinking, I'm just going to go and get a real job. I'm just going to go back and work in corporate 5 days a week and do that.
Yes.
And then that kind of drags me back. I'm like, oh, I can't do that.
Right. And thank you for being honest about that. Like you saw my face because we all do it. I have a backup plan. Like I'm never ashamed to say like the backup plan is I would work at Target or Starbucks because I could clock in, clock out, and I could still have a side hustle. Like this is what I know because I love being an entrepreneur. The thing that I don't like, that it's just a personal thing is the whole real job thing. And that's because this job, Sinead, like your entrepreneurship job is a real job. And I hear this all the time. I'm just going to go get a real job. That implies that your entrepreneurship job is fake. It is not. You are working so hard. Everyone here listening is working so hard. We have to make sure that we're reminding ourselves that this is a real job. It is a big deal. And it's so much harder than working for someone else. So to consider it not a real job, it just gets my gut. It hurts every time I hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to work for somebody else, you lose your creativity and all the sense of self that you've built over here.
Right.
There's so much to gain from this side of the coin.
And I'll also say that it's important to recognize that sometimes that's what we have to do. There is no shame, absolutely no shame in leaving the entrepreneurship space. Number one, if you have to, because the season of life is like, I need to go work for someone else. The mental load is too much to be an entrepreneur in this season of life. That is okay. It's more than okay. It's taking care of yourself. And the other part is sometimes people realize entrepreneurship is not for them. That's also okay. We need entrepreneurs and we need people who will work for those entrepreneurs. So we need both people. It's okay to do both. Sinead, you have your yoga business and you're helping Offering Tree. It's incredible that you're doing both of those things.
Oh, no, I love that. It's a really good reminder. I'm going to read out some of the comments here. We've got,
yes, please.
Oh, we've got a lot of comments.
Yay. Love it.
Oh, Shelby, we've just missed Shelby. Shelby's had to go and pick up her son. Loved it so far. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Shelby. Thank you for being here. I hope you catch this in the replay. Rebecca has said this has been way more helpful than I could have imagined. I want the replay like now so I can implement all this stuff. I know.
Oh, Rebecca, thank you for sharing that. Oh, Sinead, I love that. Oh, I thank you so much for sharing that. You never know, just like when you're teaching whatever you teach or share, like you never know if it's landing. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And then I hope I get your name right. Is it Clemencia? I came late, so I have to watch the replay of the first half of it. You're going to love it. Have your notepad ready. The Tina Club. Yes, I quit 9 to 5 to work 7 to 7.
I understand that. I think Jasmine Starr said recently, or had it on her Instagram, that was like, entrepreneurship is where you work 80 hours a week just so you won't work 40 for someone else.
That's so true. And then Tina also says, yes, boundaries on my time is needed. Thanks for the reminder. Dan said this was awesome. Sheila,
thank you.
Thank you. The progress log is going to be a game changer. I think so. And
it's huge. Yeah, the progress log is a big deal. It's hard to implement. So this is something that, so one of the options that I have currently, again, I don't know if you're catching the replay like 2 years from now, who knows if it's still available, but one of the options that I have right now is called the Goal Getter package. And part of that is I actually send reminders to people as part of this package to update their progress log, because I know it's really hard to do on your own. So if you don't work with me, if you're not working with another coach that can help you, do whatever you need to do to set that reminder. Put it on your calendar, put it as an alarm on your phone, like do something to remind yourself, because it's a new habit. It's really hard to get into that, but it makes a huge difference. So it's worth it.
Such a good, that's the thing, is tracking the progress is difficult for me. So Diane says, how do you work out how much you charge for your services?
I mean, that's a tough one. Specifically, when I think about service providers, I would say look at whatever service you're providing and then look in your local area at what other people are charging. And the easiest way for a service to start is to understand what your hourly rate is. And so looking at what a massage costs, what a private yoga session costs, what a facial cost, different services, whatever relates to what you're doing, looking at what other people are charging in your area, even if you're working online and working virtually, look at that and start there, knowing that you can always change your prices. So you're not stuck in a specific price forever. So looking at that and knowing your hourly rate is the easiest way to go about that. And then based on whatever your package is, you can figure that out. Not that you always want to be doing dollar for time or currency for time, but it's the easiest way to do it at first.
Had to unmute myself. Sorry, the children appeared in the background, so I'm like mute, and then I forget. Nicole had said, should we be tracking our progress daily or a weekly check-in?
Great question. I would do weekly. So I do mine every Friday. I just have a reminder on in my project management tool. But every Friday, it reminds me to update my progress log, and that's what I do. And then every quarter, you'll review it.
Okay, and then Clemencia says, talking about accountability, how can I get clear on what to do if I like so many things and can't make up my mind? I hear you.
That's good. So it depends on what support you want to find. So if you are like, I need to find an accountability buddy that is a fellow entrepreneur, we're going to hold each other accountable, and we're going to have weekly Zoom calls or whatever. It doesn't matter like what your preferred method is, but if that's what you're going about, you're finding a friend, basically an accountability buddy, you need to decide what you're focused on. That person is not going to help you. They possibly can, but you need to decide what it is. So how to do that is, I would say, write your list of ideas and identify which one you're most excited about, even if it's 1% more exciting. What are you most excited about? Knowing that you can do the other things on the list, but you have to do one at a time. Now, if you want to hire a coach, they can help you figure out what that is. They can ask you the questions, they can help you boil it down. They can often tell you what it is. When I work with someone, they'll tell me their ideas. I know exactly which one they want to go to more. I can tell in their face, the way they describe it. It's very, very easy usually for someone else to pick it up who's done it more than once. Sometimes your friends can too. If they're a fellow entrepreneur, they probably can. So you can try that as well. But it depends. So if you're finding an accountability buddy, you're going to have to decide. If you find a coach, a mentor, or something like that, they can usually help you decide what it is.
Cool. And I have a question too.
Yeah.
How does your 90-day goal connect to your overall goal, like your annual goal, your big goal?
Hmm.
How do we link it in? Is there a link? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think annual goals are awesome, but our brain just doesn't work very well. I think it was Bill Gates. I've attributed it to him many times, but I think there's other people who've said it too, but says that we overestimate what we can do in a short amount of time, but we underestimate what we can do in a long period of time. So sometimes if I ask someone, what do you want to get done this year? They'll actually tell me their 90-day goal because we don't think that well in annual goal terms. Now, maybe you have a 5-year goal or an annual goal that you're working towards. Then what you would do is do that same math, like you're looking at your 90 days and ask yourself, what is something that I can do in 150 hours to get me one step closer to my overall goal? And that's the 90-day goal. So it can absolutely be connected. And again, over time, we get really clear. We get more clear with what these can be and how they connect. It gets to be way easier once you've done it for a year. But that's what I would say is how, if you're looking at your goal, your big overall annual goal here, and you ask yourself, what can I do in 90 days to get me this much closer? Because there's going to be 3 more times, right? To get there.
I love it. No, that's a really good reminder. And Diane is saying, should you stick to your plan day and should you schedule task times 15 minutes at a time in your calendar? And should you force yourself to stick to it? Oh,
This is a
that's so
good
good.
question.
Mm,
So I would say it really depends on your personality and characteristics and what works best for you. So this is one thing that I don't believe that one way works for everyone. So I could share what works for me and it's not going to work for everyone. The example I always use is batching content. If you've never heard someone talk about batching, it's doing one task in a batched amount of time. So writing a lot of emails all at once versus writing an email sporadically throughout the week or month or year. I love batching. And so for the longest time, I would tell people, batch your content, batch your content, batch your content, because I think it's the best way to get ahead, stay ahead, and be consistent. That does not work for everyone. This is what I've learned as a coach. That does not work for everyone. And so I cannot force anyone to do anything that does not work for them. So, what you want to do is identify what is best for you. And so often, what we have to do is try different things. So, if you want to try and put that task on the calendar for 15 minutes and see if that works for you, by all means, try that. If it's not working, try something else. If it is working, keep going, put the blinders on, just like with the technology. We have to figure out what works for us, but we often have to try different things to make it work. So with task management systems, with calendars, with what we do, like there was a season in my business and I would say that season was probably 2 to 3 years. So it was a good chunk of time where I pretty much had it and I loved it. I hope to get back to this. It's just not there right now. But I was like, I did certain things on certain days. So Tuesdays and Thursdays were client days. I only took calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays were podcast days. So I had interviews, I did podcasting work. And my goodness, I love that. This season of my life, the last year in writing a book, launching a book, editing a book, all the things, and how my business has changed, that's not how it works right now. But that doesn't mean the podcast went to crap, right? Like I figured it out. I didn't, just because the plan doesn't go according to what Amanda loves the most. which is I work on my podcast on Wednesdays. Like I love doing that, but that's not realistic right now. So what I did is I adapted to the season of my business, and I would encourage you to do that. Find what works best for you, but know that we don't live in a perfect world. And so you're going to have to adapt to, maybe I can't write those emails all when I want to, or whatever the case is, just understanding that that's going to happen. So giving yourself a lot of grace with that, but also holding yourself to it, which is tracking that progress and figuring out what works. So like maybe you try the 15-minute thing and you're tracking it and you're like, gosh, this hasn't worked for 4 weeks. Maybe I should try something else. Like really understanding that's how tracking will help. Because in your mind, you'll be like, well, I got to give it more time, or I've been trying this forever and it's only been 2 weeks. So our brain kind of does something funky with the time.
No, that's such good advice. And I find I work for my clients. I can do social media for my clients. When it comes to doing it for my own business, I just procrastinate. The task managing always works when I'm doing one side of my business and not the other. So it's like tracking that, and I need to get better at it.
And that I would say, I'm just not really I'm diagnosing right now, like, which is not what you're asking for. But when that comes into play, if you're working with someone else and you see that this has happening, it's not that you're not following the task and aren't capable of the task. That to me is you are uncomfortable marketing yourself,
Oh, yeah. Oh, very
right? So
much.
that's a
Yeah.
different problem. You don't have a problem following a task list or managing your time. You have a different problem, and that is navigating the feelings of marketing yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. That's like hit home, like, oh, yeah, that's it. Well,
Yeah.
Pia's got a great question here. Um, what about if you want to change your business while keeping current offerings open to make money?
Mm,
How much time would you dedicate to the long-term goal of changing it to a new way of running it in the future?
mhm.
I.e., keep offering in-person series while planning for your online support group for people with illness. How much time new versus current?
Such a good question, Pia. Thank you. And I've worked with Pia for a long time, so I know a lot more about her business as well. So, this is a great question, and the answer will vary based on the person. So, some people will feel really, really comfortable by giving themselves a financial cushion. So, that could mean saving and hoarding away some money in a bank account so that if I make no money with this new business for 6 months, I'm covered. Or you could work extra hard. You're going to be putting in more effort to basically be building two, like you're going to maintain one business, build a new one, and until that new one reaches that threshold, you have to keep this one going. So that means more time, more energy. You're going to be working more to do that versus if you build up the money and give yourself the cushion to then build up the other one. So that is just dependent on what you want to do. There's other people who are like, I'm okay stopping this, and however long it takes to build back up is what happens. Like there's not a wrong or right way. So it would just depend on how you wanted to go about that. And also understanding that if you if you do the build both at the same time, it's going to take a lot more mental energy. And so it will most likely take longer. If you make one go away and start the other one, you are heavily incentivized to make the next one work. And so you're more likely to push forward quicker if you really want that thing. So I'm not saying you're going to get everything right away. I think that's impossible. But you'll progress faster because you first of all, you have the time because you're not doing the other thing anymore. So you've got the time to invest into this new thing and you're really incentivized because you want to make money. So there's that. I don't have a magic amount of time. It's really understanding what you're comfortable with and how you want to approach it. Now, one tactical tip I would say is look at, so let's say right now you are 100% on one business. Maybe what you could do quarter by quarter is to say, I want to shift at 25%. How can I get 25% of this revenue covered by this new thing. And then slowly the percentages will go like this, to where this one's away and this one's 100%. So you could look at it as a percentage versus a time and try and do it that way. And that would be a very tactical way of looking at it, which would be a nice way to see like the progress happening in terms of revenue and time.
Good. That's so good, because it's kind of risky, right? You don't want to drop everything and move, but like you say, it's definitely incentivizing.
Yes, it is. And sometimes like it just depends on what kind of shift it is, right? If you're ready for the shift to happen, then it's time. Because the other, like this sounds really harsh, but where our energy goes, right, is where something will grow. And so if you don't want this thing, whatever this is anymore, if you don't want it, you're not going to be doing anything to grow it anyway. And so your attention, all your energy and effort is going to be going to this other thing. And so this other thing is going to start going down anyway. Like it's not just going to keep growing by itself. None of our businesses grow by themselves. We have to put energy into the machine in order for it to work. And so if you don't put energy into the machine, it will eventually die anyway. So there's that.
So wise, I've just wrote that down. Where our energy goes. That's so smart. And Sarah says, oh, OMG, this is exactly where I am right now. I was struggling with letting go of a business I'm no longer passionate about. Yeah, it resonates with me too. It really does. Thank you for this. Amanda, this has been incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. And if it's okay for me to say this and take us over one minute. Sarah, thank you for saying that. Sinead, thank you for honoring and saying that as well. This has come up more and more. I think this is just Amanda's experience based on talking to a lot of people. A lot of us jumped into something, whether that was a new business or a pivot in our business when COVID happened. Things are changing now in the world, in our life, and it's okay to let something go. It's okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to evolve. Know what you're passionate about. You don't have to give up completely on this other thing, but it's okay. I've had so many people tell me, and I really appreciate it, like, because I've been very open about changes in my business. They've said, Amanda, to see you doing this change has given me permission to make the change. And so I just say, like, take it. Take that if that's what you need, because it's okay to change. That's why you're an entrepreneur. Like, we got into this so that we could have control of what we're doing. So do what you want to do.
That is so true. Well, I'm just going to share my screen because I have one more question for everyone here to share in the chat. Do you see my screen? What is your biggest takeaway today? I think we got so many in there. Everybody's popping in to say thank you. Dan says, very helpful talk. Thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing the follow-up info. Yeah, I'll send all the links and everything out by email afterwards. What if you've lost self-confidence due to a bad client interaction, says Diane. How do you regain it? That's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one. I would say, let's not forget all the wonderful clients you've had. For that one bad experience, how many good ones have you had? It's easy to forget those, but I really encourage everyone to create what I have called, and I did not come up with this. I wish I could remember where I heard it first, but I have a folder on my computer that's called the smile file. And anytime someone says anything nice, which by the way, these comments are going in it, I capture them because I have bad days. We all do. And so go to that smile file, remember all the good client interactions you've had, and know that it's okay to, we're not going to be the perfect fit for everyone.
That smile file. And I'm going to share some links in the chat while Julie says, thank you, Celine. Thank you for all this valuable information. Amanda is amazing. I told you guys at the top of the webinar, she's so good.
Thank you.
And Mariana, thank you, Amanda. Carol says, thank you. Kim says, thank you. Well, I want to share a couple of links about Amanda first. So this is where you can find Amanda on Instagram. And again, this will all come out in the replay email, or if you're here for the replay, you'll get it in the comments or in the sign up email. I'm not sure where we send it out. And I wanted to share our discount link for Offering Tree for anyone here who's new to Offering Tree is right there. You can get a discount on it for sign up today. There's always a free trial. And we do these webinars regularly. So if you have a topic you want to learn about, let us know. You can always contact us at hello@offeringtree.com by email. Reply to any emails you receive from us. We're always here on the other side of the chat. And often it's one of the co-founders, Eddie or Alec or Arvind, who's back there looking at those, and they love to cultivate this community. It's so valuable to us. So I'm going to say once again, thank you, Amanda. This was incredible. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your book, which I have on order. So I was hoping to be able to be like, yay! But I will
you.
Be your biggest fan. So I'm going to pause the recording here. Thank you everyone for being here.